Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Weekend Catch-Up Club, the coffee morning show brought to you live every Saturday, direct to Facebook, and available later on demand at youtube.com/gamertagged. I'm joined once again by a very special guest. It is the action man himself, the industry mover and shaker. It is Dan Sheridan.
Awesome to be here. Thanks very much for inviting me on.
Thank you for agreeing, buddy. Thank you for agreeing.
No problem at all.
We were chatting just off camera there about your awesome Millennium Falcon background.
Yeah, I'm a massive Star Wars fan as it is, and I just realised actually you can do this in this background. And normally for most of my business calls,
yeah,
I have it as my background anyway, and it's it's an icebreaker. It's a conversation point. And the problem with Star Wars is I could probably talk for a long time, so I won't. Probably other things to talk about.
Not at all. Have you been checking out Star Wars Squadrons, which just came out this week or last week?
I have, and for the first, I can get it. For the first time, I've had a reason to dust
off. Oh, the VR. Yeah.
Yeah.
How is it?
So it's amazing in VR. I think it's just there's like loading screens or almost like situational pre-mission screens.
Yeah.
And you're in like a briefing room, and you've got someone who it's like giving you a brief, and then you're looking around and you're looking at your mates.
Yeah.
You're about to go into battle with, and I could just like stay there forever. And then next minute, I'm talking to Wedge Antilles, and I'm like, "What the hell is going on?"
That's incredible.
And then you can like jump around and look at your X-wing or your TIE fighter, and there's like things happening in the background. And I don't even need to go and do the mission. I'm just quite set, just finished work at the end of the day and just chilling out in the hangar with a nice Coke or something.
It's the detail that they've put into those cockpits, because as you said, you can like fully look around, you can see all the dials, and you can look behind you. I'm so envious of anybody that has VR, because I've just been playing it on my Xbox, which is just static essentially, which is a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. It's the X-wing v TIE fighter like throwback that we've been dreaming of. But that extra level of immersion with VR, God, I'm so
I think
jealous.
You can take it a next level, because you have that HOTAS or flight stick thing, and I've been seeing people getting them and raving about them. Just like, oh, that's the next level for me. I think that's one of the reasons why I was umming and ahhing between getting it on PlayStation or getting it on Steam or Origin. Because it doesn't support touch controls for like Oculus. So if it did, then I probably would have got it there, because it'd be really cool to do that. Hopefully they support it in the future.
Totally, yeah. Wow. So shall we crack on to your good self? So tell everybody in the chat who you are and a bit about your background, which is quite extensive and extremely impressive.
Thank you. So my name's Dan Sheridan. I've worked in the world of entertainment for about 20 years now. Not many people know that, before games, I worked in the music industry, did a small stint in working in home entertainment, so covering films, DVDs, Blu-rays, things like that. And then got my big break into the games industry in 2006. And prior to joining games, I was a very creative person. I was creating websites for the likes of Craig David, for the record labels like EMI, Virgin Records, for Beatles, Queen, all sorts of artists, and that was that's what I started my life doing, leaving uni, and then that kind of merged into a technology called enhanced CDs. We used to get a CD single before the days of Spotify.
And, physical media, baby.
You put it into your computer, and there'd be like a little video played of the artist that's really micro small. You had to install QuickTime. Well, I was one of the people who put those CDs together. So my music collection is quite eclectic. I have a lot of CDs in the garage. Everything's moved to digital now, so my CD player is non-existent.
Yeah.
I think the car is the only place I've got a CD player now. And from there, it kind of evolved a bit further. New technology, DVD came out, so I started to learn about video editing. I was producing music DVDs, so I did one for the Mighty Blue, Jet, Dandy Warhols, Shakespeare Sister. Loads of really cool music DVDs, multi-angle. And then I wanted to work in film, so it was like a good step into that and develop my video editing skills even further. And yeah, I then went on working creating DVDs for the likes of Taggart and Mutant X, and those DVDs used to get free with the Sunday Times every weekend. I was the guy who put those together.
Wow.
And then Blu-ray came out. The industry had a bit of a shake-up. There was a lot of piracy going on. I was made redundant, as a lot of people are feeling that way now. And I thought to myself, what do I do? So I set up my own business back then called Video Monkeys, and I inherited a lot of clients from the DVD times. And I went on to create DVDs for the likes of Contender Home Entertainment, who are now Entertainment One. And I authored 52 Hong Kong legend DVDs with the likes of Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan.
Yeah. Police Story Collections, Armor of God, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it all in the garage. Like everything that I worked on, I always had like a promo copy.
Yeah.
In cellophane with my name on it, and it's just it's in the archive. And I'm really thankful for those years where I worked in those industries, because I learned a lot about websites, a lot about video editing, a lot about being creative, what works, what doesn't work, and that has really set me up for my career in the games industry.
Yeah.
So businesses, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes clients want more. Blu-ray was a big thing. It was very expensive for a small business owner to do that. So I decided to quit that business and look for an alternative job. And video games was a massive passion of mine.
Yeah.
And my other half at the time, her mum found a job working at EA, and she said, "You should do this. It's playing video games." I was like, what do you mean, playing video games? She went, "Yeah, it's a job playing video games in QA. You just go, you play them, you tell them what's bad. You will be perfect."
Ah, yes. The old QA misconception that all you do is play video games every single day.
Yeah, that is just wrong. So I went down to EA in Chertsey, and there's about 50 or so people there, all super geeks, all spent a lot of time playing games. Everyone's having banter. They had arcade machines there. They had 360s and in the foyer. You could play. I think back then it was Fight Night or something like that. You could play in the foyer, and Def Jam Icon was another one. And then we went into a big room, and we were given a test, and it was like 50 questions, and everyone thought it was test gaming knowledge, but it wasn't. It was testing, observation, description. What did you spot? You have played like video sequences, and you had to say what was wrong with it. And afterwards it was like, right, okay, we've got your results. We're going to split you up, and it was like, if I call out your name, go in this room. If you call out your name, go in this room. So there was like about 50 names. Well, 47 names called out, and I thought, oh my god, I have not made it, because they were doing a massive recruitment at the time for Battlefield and what would be Burnout Paradise QA.
Right.
And I thought, I was looking at these other two guys in the room, and who are now like really good friends of mine as well, and they've both got jobs in the industry. as well. They had a similar career to me, but they went off in a different direction. And yeah, the guy came in and went, "You three, you're hired. Everyone else has been told to go home." And I thought,
Fantastic.
what
Yeah.
the hell? What the hell? So yeah, I started my career in EA in QA, working on the likes of Burnout Paradise, testing that, and then also testing Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix
Right.
on the Wii, casting spells.
Wow. Okay.
My arm was hurt at the end of
Do you
every
have any
day.
repetitive strain injuries
Oh yeah,
from that after?
yeah, yeah. That was a game that I wanted to get off pretty quick. I can tell you that. But yeah, it was awesome. You know, you learn a lot about how games are actually made. I think there's a misconception about how games are made. You know, you were there to do a job, just make sure everything was as good as it could be. So I'll give you a typical example of what I had to do. It was like driving around the outskirts of Burnout Paradise
Okay.
on the edge,
Okay.
right, like grinding the edge, looking for gaps. Because
Okay.
sometimes the geometry didn't quite fit, and people would fall out of the game world, and that was my test for that day.
Right.
But then, as I was referred to back then as Bug King because I was putting in about 100 bugs a day, and I'm sure the devs were getting annoyed. That was finding all of these things. So they moved me on to peripheral testing.
Right.
So I had all of these steering wheels and joypads and everything set up, and that was my job. I just played the game
Yeah.
with the peripherals, and I think it's because they knew there'd be less bugs.
Right. This guy's
Well,
giving us too much work today. He's finding too many
yeah, yeah,
broken
yeah.
things.
Yeah, and but QA was great because I met so many people. Worked different shifts back then. So I worked the graveyard shift, which was 7 o'clock in the at night through to like the small hours, and yeah, some really good times, some good people, and
Yeah.
a lot of them have gone on to jobs like producer. Um, one guy has stayed in testing for his entire life, but he's like head of the QA department, which is cool.
Yeah.
Game designers, if the entry level route does work, but it's highly competitive.
Yeah.
And you've got to be focused and you've got to want it, because
Yeah.
if you don't, you're not going to get the opportunity. And I think for me, that's where I got my break, because as soon as you're through the door, you've got access to the internal jobs board. And a job came up within the marketing department at EA. They wanted a web producer, and I had the previous skills of
Yeah.
building websites, and I had a portfolio, and I kind of went in. I'm super nervous going into like the big building for EA, and meeting the real people who do the real work.
Yeah.
And
That
you
seems
sat
to
there.
be a thing that I'm hearing a lot from other friends who have started in QA. It seems to be this, like as you say, like a springboard, that entry point. Some people love it and stay there and work up to lead a department in QA, or they'll springboard off into development or off into like other parts of the business. It's fascinating that of all of the entry points, QA seems to be the most kind of prolific access point.
Yeah, I think it's because you have more access to the developers, and there was also, there was another form of QA called embedded QA, and that was like the holy grail of QA, because you'd actually be moved into the studio.
Right.
So you'd be working with the devs, and you might be asked to fix little things, and you could really develop your career. And if that's something that you were passionate with, you could, it's a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but you could still get a career on the dev side. And a lot of the people that I knew, that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to make the games, whereas me, I wanted to, market the game.
Yeah.
So that was the thing that was interesting. So yeah, I started working then for EA UK, and my responsibility was web producer, looking after all of the websites for EA in the UK. The Sims, Command and Conquer, Battlefield, Need for Speed, Medal of Honor, FIFA at one point.
So really small indie games then, nothing AAA.
No,
Clearly
yeah,
nothing AAA.
nothing triple A whatsoever. And no, just kidding. And it was a really cool experience. And I was pinching myself every day coming to work. Like, I'm working on one of the games that I really love, which was Battlefield.
Yeah.
And we had game time, and I was at work playing games for like an hour. Or after work, I was playing Medal of Honor on a Friday with a beer and a packet of crisps with my co-workers, and it was Medal of Honor Allied Assault. And it was amazing. It was just like, I don't want to go home. Why would you go home when you can sit and play video games, and that's the job that you do. But obviously, there's the hard work, like launching websites and creating content and all of that brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
So,
can you talk a little bit about that side of it as well? Like, how, when you're creating like websites and you're getting assets and things from the developers or the studios, like how far in advance do you, like, as a typical lead time for creating something to promote? Like the next Battlefield, for example, or whether it was Battlefield 3, they're obviously planning a marketing kind of run up to a year out. So how far in advance do you have to start kind of prepping stuff? Is it like, can it be super last minute, or is it like really like far in advance before you start to know things?
It depends where within the company you work. So like a lot of the websites originated from a central perspective. So it could be led from North America, or it could be led from a European hub. And then from there, the individual territories would be able to put in requests of what content they want. And then I would manage that aspect of it. I think, as soon as the game has like a form of playable state, that's when the central team are, starting. It's as soon as so it could be a couple of years out, and then they're like building the website, and they're either working internally or they're getting external agencies, or the briefing agencies, and they're coming up with concepts. And there's a lot of work goes into marketing behind the scenes for a long time, involving so many smart people. And it's like putting things like analytics on the website, integrating e-commerce, integrating community features. I mean, we had the EA account feature, which you had to put across all of the websites, and it's what you log in, and it retains your stats from the game. How does that get presented to the website? What does the user journey look like? How does somebody interact? What's their experience? And it was very much, one of the things that was driven into me was think consumer first. It's like, what does the end user experience when they go into this website for the first time, when they sign up for a newsletter, when they interact with someone on Twitter or Facebook, or they interact with you at an event? What is their experience? So those are the type of things. And then assets, you'd get like a suite of assets. There's an online asset repository. You download images, videos, but then you have to make them applicable to the UK. So we had like a graphics team, we had a video team, but those requests, take a long time. If you need something quick, something's not quite right, then that's where my video skills and my Photoshop skills came in. I could quite easily fix things and put them up there, or help other teams within marketing and create those assets when needed. So that was cool. It almost created a job in itself doing that.
Make yourself invaluable, which is hugely important.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, with all kinds of jobs, you get a job description, and some people are quite happy to work to that description. But I find that you've got to make it your own. You've got to make it enjoyable. It could be enjoyable from talking to customers, or doing anything. Just make something more of the opportunity that you're given, and I find that opens so many more doors for you.
Absolutely.
In the future.
I find that as well. It's like, even in my day job as well, it's like, yes, there is a set kind of criteria that you have essentially been like hired to do or to fulfill. But if it is an environment which can really cultivate experimentation and going off and like trying things and trying. I mean, we talk about innovation as like a buzzword, which is often overused a lot of times, and it is like one of these kind of marketing terms. But to really innovate, it's not just always about like pushing the envelope for technology, but it's just about like experimenting with something that maybe you haven't tried before, that isn't that, okay, we know that this works, we know that this is like how a typical marketing strategy is typically rolled out, but how about if we try something that is just totally different, that is like, you just get to experiment. And if it's an environment where you're allowed to just really experiment and try and get creative with doing something different, as you said, it's like you're changing like what your day-to-day role is and can be, and then you're starting to develop yourself creatively, technically, professionally, to do just other things, and it hopefully will inspire like those colleagues around you as well, to then they might have an idea. It's like, you know what, we've never done this with a campaign before, or we've never done this with a website before, or a social event, or a marketing campaign. What if we do like this? It's a crazy idea, but do you think we could do that? And that's what's, I think, really exciting for anybody in like the creative industry or media and entertainment, is there's so many tools now that if you're lucky enough to work for a company that embraces that experimentation side of it, then it can be really fulfilling and really a lot of fun.
I think that's where the opportunity comes from, working in a local market versus working, in the where the direction comes from is that you're in charge of the entire strategy, which is exciting thing, because you're setting the direction for everybody to kind of follow, but the local territories have the ability to add that local flavor to a campaign. So that's where some of the really cool ideas come from. For example, the team in the Nordics always used to come up with like awesome ideas. Same in the Netherlands and France for one Battlefield. I think it was Battlefield. They had people abseiling down a store equivalent game to open up the launch night.
I think I remember that actually. Yeah.
I was like, and for us in the UK, great guy Kev, we got a tank going down Oxford Street to open up the midnight launch, and we were riding on the top of the tank, and it was just it was like crazy. Obviously, health and safety in today's world we need to be mindful of. But back then it was it's really fun.
Yeah, maybe not the thing you could get away with in 2020. Like
tanks
rolling down the street.
Not now. I mean, then like the PR team came up with this thing called Tanksies, where you get picked up from Waterloo and you'd get taken to work in a tank, and that was just like it's crazy PR stunt, but it worked back in the day.
Yeah.
And for me, that's where back to your point about adding awesome things, helping other departments and doing silly ideas. That's where my Twitter account EA Action Man was kind of born from. Was adding that local flavor. Like, it was really difficult for me because my job then evolved from doing web production into community management. There was a lot of restructure, and the community team then who looked after forums kind of left the business through sadly through redundancy, and there was a gap to be filled, and social media was quite prevalent, and they needed someone to step up. So that fall on my lap. So I had to learn a lot about social media and interacting with people online.
Yeah. Especially back then as well, because social media isn't or wasn't what it is today. It was very like a new thing back in like 2006, 7, 8.
Yeah. It's weird because I have a presentation. I did a presentation University of London a couple of years back, and the first few slides were like, I've seen the rise of MySpace and Bebo, and before MySpace and Bebo, and I've seen people gravitate, put all of their content on Facebook, and it was back then you could easily within a year have a Facebook page with like millions of followers, and then they moved to like a monetization model, and everything just dropped off, and it's really hard. And now you see the same happening with Discord. Everyone's like, gotta be on Discord, gotta have a Discord, and I'm thinking that's great, but you're, as a community manager, you're doing their job for them. You're driving users onto their platform,
Yeah.
yes, it benefits your game, but it ultimately benefits the platform because
Mm-hmm.
now they've got more people to market to. And, you know, I'm one of these people who is, I think Discord is great, but I also think, you know, if you can own the platform,
Yeah.
it's so much better. You know, you have more, you can do more things with it. But then, you know, social media, going back to my point on social media, you know, EA Action Man, I set it up because it's really difficult to interact with people on a one-to-one basis from a corporate account.
Yeah.
You know, have that interaction, and people just don't believe you. There's no credibility. There's no authenticity. You know, there was no way to be passionate about the games through the corporate account.
Mm.
So I set up this account, and I developed a bit of a following, and you know, I became this persona,
Yeah.
and I was representing EA at events. I had, you know, my Action Man
Yeah.
Twitter account on the back of a giant bus called the EA Hub that went to music venues, and people following me, and you know, it was great, and it worked. And the central team, and you know, they didn't want this because everybody wanted like their own local thing, and it was a bit of an enigma.
Right.
Um, but it worked. So I think that's why I was able to keep on keep hold of it for
Yeah. Yeah.
as long as I did until I left the company, and then I had to say goodbye and leave my account behind. But I think now that's where the shift is, because there's a lot of people at big companies using their own identities
Mm-hmm.
to represent those
Yeah.
companies, and that's cool now. And I'm sure if they left, they would take their accounts with them. I think the only issue for me is because they had EA at the front of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't, it was a verified account, and it's understandable. I wasn't allowed to, take
Yeah.
it with me. But then, in a sense, that's good, just to have your own identity and maintain that
Mm.
as much as
Yeah.
possible.
Well, you created something that nobody else was really doing back then as well. I mean, as you said, now like everybody's all over social media. Like all of the publishers and developers are like they have their major channels and their major almost like shows. I'm thinking specifically recently I watched the Xbox On, like their team has like a full production show which they do like the Twitch streams, they do direct to community kind of broadcasting now, whereas like back then it just didn't exist. Nobody was really on it at that point, whereas like you were one of the first ones to really kind of challenge what could be done on social media.
Yeah, and I like to think as well with influencers and content creators. EA was one of the first companies
Mm.
to bring content creators in,
Yeah.
and when we used to have press events all the time, and bringing journalists in was the thing to do. And I was like, we need to bring people who have built their own communities. Could be hundreds of people, could be thousands of people. We need to bring them in and give them the same access and give them the same value, so they can give that value back to their communities and spread the message. And then
Yeah.
it was the same with up and coming YouTubers. So people like Ali A, Vicstar, Game Riot, Jack Frags, all those people, they were up and coming
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
And I helped them, gave them content for their channels, and
Yeah.
obviously.
Like people now like Westy as well. He's so synonymous with Battlefield.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, if he doesn't have like access to whatever the next Battlefield is, you would kind of you'd wonder why, kind of thing. It's just so synonymous with the Battlefield brand now.
I think with all the content creators, from a community management point of view, you can give somebody the content, but I think there's a lot of people out there who are going to make it anyway, and
Yeah.
so I think if those type of people weren't getting the content from the publisher, they do it themselves on their own steam because they're exceptional at what they do. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people have very large misconceptions over what a content creator is
Mm.
or influencer, and I think for a lot of people, it's a full-time gig.
Yeah.
It's it's their job, and they're grinding like so many hours a day,
Yeah.
and they can't take holidays. And if they want to take holidays, they have to grind so much, or they get to a stage where maybe they outsource to a video editor to kind of help them out.
Yeah.
And it's a continuous machine, and I have absolute respect for these people who create content like this.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle with one video a week, and that's the breakfast show. Never mind doing it every single day as well as the normal job.
I'm thinking to myself, like, how did all of those people create all of the content and get it out on time?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew guys who were editing on the train on the way home, editing there and then, waiting to leave the building.
Yeah.
Declining to come out for something to eat because they wanted to go and edit the video, and that's how passionate they were. And that was really cool, and that was one of the first things. And then coming back to the point on shows, I created Battlefield Weekly back in the day.
Yeah.
And it was very different to the format that it is now. I think Lee, who took over from me, and Adam, who's now Battlefield community manager, they both did a fantastic job of taking it to the next level. And they had a production team, and it was a lot more polished than when I did it. When I did it, it was a pilot. We had a limited budget. We had a wacky idea. Used to go up to a studio in Leicester, ESL, with my intern Kyle, and put this show together. But everything that was done then was me. I wrote the script, the format of the show, how it was all going to work, getting the devs on, creating this thing. It was stressful because sometimes we lost the internet, the game didn't work.
Oh no.
We had every day coming in, someone had moved something in the studio so that we didn't have audio, and it was always down to the last 30 seconds, go live time.
Yeah. Everything
just all came together. But that was the fun of it. And at the end of the day, we had some food, and we just chilled out together and played some games.
There is something about that high stress, like high rush reward kind of, like it feels like it's getting done in such a scrappy manner, even though it's not. It is like carefully planned, and you're all like professionals, but there's something like super last minute about like scrambling to get it all together because it is high stress. And as you said, something got moved, and therefore there was a technical issue, and then the audio didn't work, and then you're scrambling like crazy, and then it all comes together, and it's just like this elation feeling that it's like, how did we pull that off? But we did it. And
so the weird thing for me is like trying to produce something but being the presenter, and then seeing things in the studio and people running around and people like trying to give you hand signals and coming down on the floor to give you a post-it note, and it's like, oh god, the internet doesn't work. Like, what we're gonna we were on like a backup line, and it didn't have the bandwidth to run the game, or PlayStation servers have gone down, and it's like, right, we need to probably play on, because I used to do this thing where we did like an hour content and then play with the community. So we did like a couple of hours on Xbox and PlayStation and then PC. So the gameplay was like 6 hours after the content.
So it's a big chunk of time to dedicate. And
that was my time. I wasn't getting paid extra for that. I was doing it because I loved the game, I loved the job. And I think that's the thing is, with community management, you only get out what you put in. I'm not saying that you need to spend, additional hours, but the internet exists at a time where, the 9 to 5 doesn't kind of like work. So there's a lot of people out there who, you come in, you do your work, and off you go. But I think the best people in the industry are the ones who are passionate about the game, who are involved in the community outside of the traditional 9 to 5. And that's what I try to do, is just make myself available to people. If people needed help, I'll be there. If support needed escalating, I'll put myself into a support position I probably shouldn't have done on many occasions. Like troubleshooting somebody's technical problem over the phone whilst on my laptop
speaking
directly to support, going, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. I think that openness and transparency means a lot to a community, especially one that is so passionate about a particular project. But as you said, like where do you kind of draw the line? Where do you kind of like cut yourself off to say, okay, I can't be directly involved in individual cases? It's a tough one to judge when to kind of switch off and when to, you know, stop being that person that can be contacted at any point of the day or any time of the day for any particular reason.
I think that was the downside of that, you know, Enigma Action Man account was, you know, I was trying to field multiple requests and, you know, be there for everybody, and it just wasn't possible. Yeah. So, you know, we had a brilliant support team, and, you know, I'd hate having to do it, but, you know, I'd have to direct people through to the support channel, and I knew I could fix it there and then, but you just have to follow the protocol and, you know, bite your tongue a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the thing with, you know, around game launches, there's millions of support requests coming in and people have to wait, you know, longer than normal, and social media is so instant, and if you know it, you might as well fix it there and then. But, you know, if it's something like a refund or anything to do with, you know, financially, it has to go through the support process because, you know, obviously I can't do anything like that. Or if it's a retail copy, it's like, you know, sorry, you're going to have to go back to the retailer and, you know, shout at them and not me. There used to be a time where I think EA offered warranty, and there's a guy called Jody who was head of, you know, customer service at the time. He used to get all these games coming in, like broken discs and all sorts, and he'd have like a stack of games that he'd go through and, you know, sort them out. And then they saw that, you know, that was just taking too much time. It needs to be handled at a central location. But there's some good memories that I have of, you know, all these discs coming through, and, you know, same individuals' names popping up every single time. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Yeah. So EA was, you know, it was fun. I loved it. I probably would have stayed there. Probably would have still been there. It's one of those things where, you know, when your job doesn't feel like a job, and it becomes your passion, you don't necessarily leave, but then you limit yourself in terms of, you know, where you can take things to the next level and also experience and things like that, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was weird that we started this conversation on Star Wars, because that is why I left EA. Someone downloaded a golden carrot from a Disney company called Maker Studios. And Maker Studios was a multi-channel network which was bought by Disney, which looked after some of the top 5,000 content creators in the world. And they recruited me to be head of gaming partnerships. And it was like the golden carrot that was dangled in front of my eyes was, you'll get to work on Star Wars, Marvel, all these amazing content
all
creators.
The killer IPs that you've been dreaming of as a child.
Yeah, you'll get to go to E3, Gamescom, all these events all over the world, and, you know, help us build our network and manage these relationships. And you also get to work with EA, because at the time they were doing Star Wars Battlefront. And so I thought, you know, I can quite comfortably stay at EA. I am enjoying it, but there's no I would have just been a community manager for the rest of my life. There was, you know, the only chance to move would be to, you know, sidestep into a global role or at a studio. And those roles, you know, tend not to come up so often either, you know, when there was a new game cycle or, you know, it was very competitive as well, or you'd have to relocate. And at the time, you know, I didn't think that was for me. So I thought, you know, if I'm not going to, you know, leave and do something, you know, for myself now, when will I ever do it? So I just thought, right, I'm going to do this. And when you made up your mind, off you go. So yeah, I left, and it was sad, and I had some great friends. I'm still friends with a lot of people now. And the thing with EA is all of the other companies that are out there. There's always somebody who's worked at EA. You
Yeah.
always come across somebody that you knew. It was such a family. It gets a lot of bad stick in the press for a lot of things, but there were people behind those jobs and those games, and lots of dedication into making those games as well.
Yeah.
So really good positive vibe there as well.
I remember I was thinking back as to when we first met, and I was chatting to my good friend Scott Watson as well. I was like, "Do you remember when we first met, Dan?" And it was at EGX, I think 2013, maybe 2014, and you were doing promo for Titanfall at the time for EA, and man, that was a good time as well. But yeah, I remember that as like this killer franchise. It just came out of kind of nowhere, and it was Respawn at the time, and as you said, it's like getting to meet people like that are directly involved that we would normally ever get to talk to. And it's the people behind these games that we love so much, these franchises that we love so much, which a lot of people don't or aren't fortunate enough to be able to talk to or be able to see. They just see the corporation and then like the product that comes out, and they don't see what's kind of like in between there. And we felt incredibly grateful because we got to hang out with you a little bit at the after party and stuff as well, and talk to you. And it just really kind of opened our eyes even further to like all the different components and all the different touch points that goes into these games. Yeah, it is wonderful to see.
Titanfall was amazing because I just remember we just had this massive long queue going all the way down to the escalators.
Yeah,
and then
3 hours or thereabouts.
Yeah, snake around, and there was just one guy who was just playing it non-stop. Every morning he was first in the queue.
Wow.
And at the end, we said to him, we're making this amazing collector's edition. We haven't announced it yet, but you're going to get one because, we appreciate your dedication, and we took his, name and address. And when it came out, it was like this massive Titan statue with the pilot jumping on it. And we sent him one, and he was over the moon. Like, he didn't, it wasn't that he had millions of followers or anything. He was just a dedicated, passionate guy that, sometimes, you can reward those type of things.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to do. It feels good from both a publisher perspective, and also that person will go on and think, Titanfall, I remember when these guys, did this amazing thing. And, like yourself, people hang out at places and you remember those moments. And I always find if you take the time to listen and take the time to get to know people, then you find so much more out about the community, and it's so much more interesting on both sides as well. And that's what I like to try and do and get involved with. But yeah, my next role in Maker Studios was not a community facing role. It was very much a working with top tier influencers, working with agents and talent managers, and recruiting people onto their network and managing things. I mean, don't get me wrong, I learned a ton about working with content creators and brand deals and some amazing people within the industry. But what I slowly realized was this is not working in games. This is not what I've trained for my entire life to that point, and I am not enjoying this job.
Right.
And I thought to myself, God, I have made a mistake. What do I do?
What part of what made you come to that decision? What was it that was making you feel like this is just not for me? It's not what I'm enjoying.
It was weird because it was like a startup environment, and it was very much a startup environment. But Disney had bought the company, and systems were coming in, and everyone had been there for like years, like doing their own thing, were very set in their ways, and it was very high pressure, high sales. It was about numbers, about getting people that I've spent a long time building relationships with, and just signing them to the network. And
Right.
giving people large amounts of cash to join the network and sign them for 12-month contracts and things like that. And I just thought, I had a couple of meetings with a couple of people, yeah, that I worked with since they were quite small on their YouTube, Twitch journey,
Mm-hmm.
and then they built up to like 1 million plus, and they were getting healthy views, and took them out for some lunch and having a chat, and trying to ease them onto a contract.
Uh-huh.
And it's at that point where I thought, what the hell am I doing? Why am I
Yeah.
doing this? This is not
It's like
me.
you're a car salesman at that point. That's what it
On
must have felt like.
Yeah, honestly, it
Mm.
was, it was awful. And I don't, the job, the company, the people were brilliant,
Yeah.
but what I was doing, how I felt about the role that I was doing, I just, didn't agree with me.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd only been there a few months, and I had to, go to my boss, and we went to a coffee shop, and I said, I'm sorry, this job ain't for me.
Yeah.
I don't feel like, I can do what you want me to do, and I don't feel like I can sell out my contacts to you. This is,
Mm-hmm.
it's not what I signed up. It's not the
Yeah.
golden carrot that you dangled. I'm not doing anything to do with Star Wars. I'm not doing anything to do with Marvel. If I want to go to an event, it's a mission to
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
So I just said, sorry. And I was on like a week's notice. I didn't have anything planned,
Jesus, man.
and I didn't really properly think about it, which again was another bad thing. And I went back to my wife and I said, I've had enough. I'm not going back. And she was like, right, shit, what we're gonna do? And
Yeah, the mortgage
so
is
then I
due.
was
Dan, come on.
yeah, so then I was unemployed for a bit, and I'm thinking, right, every day looking for a job. I rang up EA and I said, I've made a terrible mistake. Can I come back? And it was like, no, we've hired your replacement.
Right.
It's not going to happen. There was a reason why you left, so you now need to respect that reason.
Right.
And I went, right, crap. Now what do I do?
Damn. Damn.
So I went back a little bit to my business roots, and I took everything that I learned, and I created this influencer network of my own called Player Network, which still exists in a form today, but it's turned more into a mentorship program for
Okay.
up and coming creators. And the idea was to set up my own maker studios and bring content creators on and help them and all of that. But what I found out was, you need a lot of cash.
Yeah.
You need really good, strong ties with, Twitch and YouTube.
Mm.
And I didn't have any of that. And, that was a failed, business venture. And I thought, no, I need to get a 9 to 5. We need to pay bills. So,
Yeah.
you're out there looking for roles, speaking to contacts and everything. And it's tough. It was really tough, not having a job and seeing people like going to Gamescom and E3, and you're just sitting on the sidelines thinking, oh, I've made massive mistakes. What do I do? How do I reinvent myself? How do I get myself back?
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine put me forward for a job at Sega.
Okay.
And I never even at the time, looked at Sega. I love the company.
Yeah.
I have lots of archived consoles in the garage as well.
Yeah.
Come out, I blow the dust off the cartridges still. That is just
that's how you get it to work, man. That's it.
that's how you get it to work. That's how you're going to beat the game is when you blow a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And I was put forward for this role, and it was to be the community manager or community marketing manager for social for Europe. And it was at that time when I thought Sega is not just Sonic and all these games. Sega is Dawn of War, Company of Heroes, Football Manager.
Yeah, that's the thing that I was really surprised about, because when I had Ibs on one of the previous shows, the community manager for Sega, I forgot that the wealth of franchises that Sega actually have under their control. It's not just Yakuza or Sega or Sonic, as you said. It is like Alien Isolation. It is the Total War games. It is 2 Point Hospital. All of these other franchises that you don't even think about. That actually Sega control those without even realizing it. Yeah, it's a wealth of IP.
Yeah, it's insane, and what the role that they were looking to hire at the time was, they had all this great IP, but they are Sega, so they've got, I think now they've just celebrated their 60th year.
Yeah.
So they have all this heritage, and then they had 25 years worth of retro games behind them, and that's where their community was. So it's like, how do we merge the two? The studios all had their own identity, their own communities, but there was no one at a Sega level talking to them, and that was my job. My job was to unite the studios under the Sega brand.
Okay.
Talk to them, get them involved in what Sega was doing online, in social, and just bring everyone under the same hub. And also, talk about the Sega games that are coming to Steam. So, for example, Mega Drive Collection on Steam. There's a ton of love for the consoles. Dreamcast. It was like, when's Dreamcast 2 coming out? I had like a fan email address, and I got emailed multiple times a day asking for Dreamcast stuff.
Have you seen the rumor this week that there's going to be there could be a Dreamcast Mini coming?
I saw that last night. I think it was one of the community guys from Sega was talking about it on his channel, and I was watching it, and I thought, hopefully that happens. But yeah, it's interesting because Sega, like you say, brilliant IP from all these studios who have their own identity. And you might not necessarily put the two together unless you see the little logo or the logo on the beginning, because it's very much that studio that retains that, and I think that's great. But then I think there's a massive audience there who had a PC who would be interested in that content, and they did a lot in terms of social, but then they didn't do a lot because of the way the company works and the approval process, and quite a lot of things had to go through Sega of Japan to get approved, and it took a long time. Right. So it's just like, let's not fight it, let's just come into work and do our job. Whereas I went in with a very different approach, and it's like, we need to do this, we need to be on YouTube, we need to be doing weekly content, we need an Instagram account because there's so much fan love for us out there. We need to inject some personality into this company and, outward facing. So that's what happened. I pretty much took my learnings from EA and the Action Man and added personality to Sega. So I did this weekly show called Sega Central. That show existed before I joined the company, but it was more event-based coverage. I turned it into a weekly thing.
Okay.
And evolved it into live streams as well, and we did some live streams at events, which didn't work out too well, but we did it and we tried it and we learned a lot from it, and then probably never did it.
What were the issues there that the live stream at events? Was it a technical logistics level, or was it something else?
It's one of those things where everything works the day before. You've got the person who made the streaming software supporting you, the internet works. You've done a rehearsal of the show. So we used to rehearse the shows, record it. Everyone in the team would watch it back and be like, yeah, that's cool. And when we got to do it on the day, the day before on setup, everywhere is quiet.
Okay.
Next day, you've got all of the other publishers around you all pumping out sound.
Yeah.
We didn't have sound.
Crazy noise. Okay, yeah.
So there was a lot of noise coming over. The internet was wonky because everybody was on it.
Yeah.
We should have had a dedicated line. We didn't. So what was going out was just really, really bad, poor quality.
Right.
And lessons learned from then on. We had for future events like a streaming room with soundproofing, with proper quality cameras and microphones and software, and somebody actually, managing it rather than me trying to do like 10 different jobs and present it as well. But I think, what we're able to do is, Sega Central became this internal thing where everybody in the company was watching it and asking me about it and saying, I've got this great idea. And, I had to stand up in front of the company and, talk about it. And when, the big bosses from Sega of Japan came over, they would talk to me, which, and spend time, and which was really cool. And, asked me for questions and what I thought about this community and that community. And, I loved working at Sega. It was, it was an amazing place, an amazing team, amazing games, and the opportunity there was to do stuff because they'd not really done that type of stuff before. It was massive. Like, all I had to do was put together a plan and send it off and wait for approval. And, sometimes you could act on it locally very quickly. For example, the Sega Central hoodies that I made, that was never, they made merch, but it just had the Sega logo on, and it was like, we weren't allowed to mess with the logo. It had to be the colors. And I created this Sega Central logo. So it's like a TV with Sega, and, the creative team won't get approved, it'll get rejected. And then it got approved, and it was like, oh my God, that's really cool. And then everybody wanted one. Everyone in the company wanted these hoodies. And it just became a thing, and people are still wearing them today. And that in the company, I'll go to an event, and people are still wearing the hoodies that I made all those times ago.
I think I've got one. I think I won one in a raffle. So the blue hoodie, it's got a big zip up down the center. It's got it's like a little kind of TV icon, I think it is.
Yeah, that's the Sega Central.
Yeah. So I love it.
Yeah, and it was great. And then we got to go to all the events where all the studios were. So we went to like Paris Games Week, and I do like this live segment with a microphone, freezing cold in Paris. We went to Poland, Warsaw Games Week, freezing cold there. Doing this like segment outside. But we were trying to show, what else happens in Sega Europe. Sega Europe, we shouldn't just be focusing on the UK. We should be looking at what's happening in Poland, Spain, Italy, all those places. Gamescom, and who we are, what we're doing, what we're showing, what games are there. Let's talk to developers. Let's ask the questions the community want to know, and that's what I did. I was like a conduit for those people, and it was that was some of the best times that I've had, and a lot of memories, and also going back to things like Daytona USA. I got to speak to the guy who made Daytona USA, and I asked him after off camera. I mean, Nagoshi-san, who is the main Yakuza guy, did his first job was Daytona, and I went, "Are you going to bring it back?" And he went, and he looked at me, and I said it in English, and then someone translated it into Japanese, but he totally speaks English, and I understand because he kept going.
He's just, being political. He doesn't want to answer it just in case.
And where he kept going, that had to be edited out quite a lot of the main videos because he did that a lot. And he said something like, I would love to return to that franchise, but the focus, typical PR answer. I think what was coming back from the translator were PR answers because that guy was PR as well. So he was just making it up. But the dream is still there. I mean, they said back in the day when I joined that Fantasy Star Online 2 would never come to the West, but it's here. And there were a lot of internal chats back then that we've got to do it. No, we can't. And then now it's here. But then there's typical Sega style things take ages. We're now pushing a new console generation, and it's taken all this time to come out. Shenmue again, another thing, another fan love thing. Every 4th of every month, my Twitter went wild because it was Save Shenmue Day, and I had to take an interest in it, and I had to take an interest in that community because I wanted to see the light of day. And whilst I was working there, it was happening behind the scenes. And you couldn't talk about it. And every Save Shenmue day, it's like, it's happening, it's coming, guys, but I can't talk about it.
Yeah, it must be difficult because you see like the fans crying out, like a huge community of not just thousands but millions of fans screaming for a project that they want to see it come back, and it's actually in development, but you just can't say anything until the right time. And it must be super frustrating because if your role is like community influencer management, community management, but you can't talk to the community about something, it's a difficult position to be in. But when that announcement does happen, it must be such a thrill to then say, look guys, here, and then there's the big kind of blowout of information as to this thing that you've been screaming about for years is now finally happening, and we can now talk about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I was watching from the sidelines. I was getting direct messages going, it's happening, Dan. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Have you got it? And I'm like, yeah. I'm probably going to buy it because I'm no longer at the company. And even to this day, there's still an account. One of the Shenmue accounts messaged me every now and again going, can you believe it actually happened? I'm like, I've played this game. Yeah, it's funny, and I've got some great memories of working at Sega, and it was a family, and always be a big part of my career. Wearing the Sonic the Hedgehog hat, reviving that hat. We had millions of them in the warehouse, and I went to iSeries, and the logistics lady was like, how many do you need? And I said 20 boxes. I didn't imagine that the boxes would be massive boxes on pallets.
Okay.
So I'm setting up this really small little Sonic Lost World, four PCs at iSeries, and then the production person comes over, Dan, we need you in the warehouse. And I went, why? You've had a massive delivery. There's like 20 pallets arrived. And I looked, I went, there must be some mistake. I thought these little boxes, massive. You need to move them. And I went, I have no storage space. Where am I going to put them? I have to put them on a stand. I'm like, have you seen the area that I'm to work in? So I did a deal with Game because they had a load of like space they weren't using.
Yeah.
So I stored all of these hats there. And I said, you guys give them out. My stuff is your stuff. And by the end of this iSeries event, everybody was wearing a Sonic hat. Yeah. There wasn't anybody. It was like I-52 or something for the bank holiday weekend or Easter weekend, and every kid, every adult, it was just a sea of Sonic hats.
Was that one of the hats that we saw you wearing one year at EGX? I think it must have been. And you were trying to interview people on the show floor about Sega and everything. I think it may have been.
Oh yeah, I was doing Sega Memories. So
yeah.
Probably was. And that hat just became a thing. But then it also became a thing where people were taking the mickey. So I took it off eventually, and I had my hoodie then. I didn't, and then occasionally the hat came out, and we made it into a gag, like the return of the hat, and took it to E3, and it appeared in places. Yeah, it was good fun.
It's cool. It's cool that kind of stuff allows you to almost create some extra type of viral content outside of what his primary purpose, I guess, was originally for. It's like it turned into this running gag of the return of the hat. So then you've got this whole other little social media campaign that you can get working as well.
Yeah, I mean, if any of the viewers are interested, go to the Sega Europe channel and search for Sega Central, and you can see some of the crazy stuff that we got up to. There was one. There's like the Sega America people. Was Atlas Studio, and Valkyria Chronicles, and they did this crazy unboxing, and we just wanted to take the mick out of them. So it's just like me sat on a chair.
Yeah.
Every revolution, I'd take the cellophane off, and then the next revolution I take the cardboard off, and then the next revolution, it was just like a parody of their video. It did really well, and I don't think they were too happy about it. But our community found it, very funny, and it's things like that. That was one of those crazy ideas. It's like, how can we do an unboxing video and make it cool?
Yeah.
And I've never been spun around on a chair so much in my life. It's like, we need to find a chair that spins. We need, let's do it in the boardroom. We need to move all these tables. And facilities guys were going nuts because we were shifting the tables around.
Yeah.
And,
Well, hopefully they get too ill getting spun around so frequently.
Yeah. So yeah, that was up to a point in my career. And at the time, VR was becoming a massive thing. Like, it was HTC Vive had just come out. Oculus Rift had, was starting to come out.
Yep.
And I loved the technology. And every event that I went to, I sat on the headset. I was playing, Elite in VR, and the Eve VR Valkyrie thing, which just blew me away. And I thought, this technology, there's something in it.
Yeah.
And there was a comment where, like, VR is holodeck. You put it on and then you just experience out of this world.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to work in it. And there was a job that came up at a studio called nDreams, based in Farnborough. And I just moved to Hampshire about 6 months prior. And it's one of those things where used to live in the East End of London. It's like, where can we move to?
Yeah.
It's like out of London, but still, it's quite affordable. And we moved to Hampshire, and I was like, this is the perfect job. I can drive to work. It's 20 minutes. My commute back then was like an hour and a half.
Right.
Do something I love. I'm working in a game studio. I've never worked in a game studio before with devs. I'm representing them, internally and externally at events, but also representing games. So, I went for the job. I got the job, and I said, "See you later, Sega." It's been fun.
But it's time to move on and something else.
It's time to move on. I've done what I set out to do. I've united the brands under Sega. I've taken the European strategy and implemented it in globally. I had the keys to both Sega Europe and the main Sega account.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot, but I needed to be closer to family. I needed to be close to home. I got not many people know, but I was quite unwell at the time. I couldn't drive. I was getting these awful headaches called cluster headaches.
Right.
And it was it's quite debilitating. Just the pain level was quite intense. I was off work for quite a while. So the commute was just out of the question. Like, if that never came along, the health problems, I could have stayed there a bit longer. And having these weird headaches, a lot of people are saying going to work in VR is probably not the best thing you could ever do. But it was a passion, and that's the thing that I've always done, is follow my passion. So I just had to work through it. And working at nDreams was just next level. Seeing a studio, seeing amazing people like Patrick, the founder of the company, who's been invested in VR and alternate reality technologies for a long time. nDreams used to create content for PlayStation Home on PlayStation 3. It's really awesome content, and he has very strong visions of where VR was going. You walk into the studio and there's like every single VR headset you've ever seen. Even one of those next to his desk, he had one of those travelator things where you run
on
the headset, and you're attached to the wires, and I'm like, this is cool.
The one thing, a piece of VR headset that I think the community needs to know, that if you ever got hands on, was the Virtual Boy.
Yeah. They had a Virtual Boy there. I think that was the one with the red visor, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Massive giant thing. Yeah, there was one on the shelf. And yeah, it was crazy. And yeah, so I that was a job where I just, I took a gamble on it. I went in not knowing the games that I was going to work on. All I knew, it was VR.
Yeah.
And I worked on a brawler game called Bloody Zombies, where you could play it flat screen, so anyone could play it on PlayStation or Xbox, or on PlayStation or PC. PlayStation, you had VR, and you had Oculus VR as well, and it was almost like a diorama style.
Okay.
So you were like looking at these people like fighting a bit like Streets of Rage, and you could see, and there was like lots of really cool aspects to it. But you could play with up to 3 other friends,
Okay.
and they were playing on the same screen. So you'd be in VR, and they'd be on the screen, or they could play in VR as well, like multiplayer.
Okay.
It's such an awesome game, but it was a very, very niche title in that respect. And then the next game I worked on was called Shooty Fruity. And that was just insane. You were working in a checkout,
right,
scanning groceries, and then your store would be invaded by mutant fruit. And
okay,
the more groceries you scanned, the better weapons that came along. You could dual wield weapons, and
right,
you shoot the fruit, and they explode into juice. All this juice like coming at you, and
okay,
that was that was super interesting, and working with all this new technology, and they were doing other stuff in the background that's was in development for non-gaming clients for VR. It's nothing that I can talk about because of like NDAs and stuff, but it was next level VR experiences, and then their next title that they were working on whilst I was there was Phantom Covert Ops, which is this game where it's a seated experience.
Okay.
And you are like special ops, like SAS or special boat service type people in a canoe, and you're fighting Call of Duty style from a canoe style kayak. Well, I should say kayak, not canoe, kayak experience.
Okay.
So many conversations from the studio, like, does the person need to get out of the boat? No. Like they're in the boat, and then they're going around for the reads. And the game is so much love. I mean, it's now released on the Quest, and it's bestseller. I think they sold like 1 million units or something.
That's fantastic.
Doing really well. Like, hired so many more people. The studio's now like 2 levels. When I was there, it's like 1 level.
Right. I've had to expand and ramp up then. Like,
expand, ramp up. I'm probably working on loads of other cool stuff, and I've got a lot of admiration for the people who work there. We had lots of fun times working in VR. It's a very different experience to a flat screen. You have to put people in the experience, and you also have to take them out of the experience. The amount of times I saw people jumping into furniture, or jumping through walls, or face planting at events, or getting dizzy and falling on the floor. All those kind of things that you just don't expect, and it's a learning curve to learn about. To learn about VR.
It's truly exciting where VR is today, like with some of the games. I mean, we opened the show today talking about Star Wars Squadrons, which is that seated experience. But then you've got things like Half-Life Alyx, which is that like the controllers, the fully kind of first person kind of adventure game. And there's so many other things that like Beat Saber, Super Hot VR. There's so much stuff that is untapped for VR just yet, and it is still very niche. But the more of these big title experiences like Squadrons, like Alyx, like Beat Saber, I just hope it continues to grow, and I think it is, because I would love to dive into VR. I just haven't been able to yet. But there's so much cool stuff out there to experiment with, and to really get that next level of immersion in video games.
I think it comes down to the price is a factor, and also the technology. With the Quest 2, it's handheld. It's not dependent on a computer, and the motion and everything. And in theory, there it's a lighter headset, and you have more freedom of movement.
Yep.
And it's only going to get better. And I think once it gets better, it gets cheaper, and there's more people. The Quest sold a lot of units. There's a lot of people out there with the Quest, particularly when the pandemic started. A lot of people were investing in VR, and it was really difficult to get a Quest, which makes it more accessible to people, I think. I mean, I'd never played Beat Saber. I saw it Gamescom E3, and I thought, who will play this? This looks like a silly game. Just that's my personal opinion. And I can't remember what it was. It was a couple of months ago. I was just like, I had to, oh, that was it. I've got a Rift, and there's a game that I was working on, and I dusted off the Rift, and I thought to myself, I'll just boot up this Beat Saber game and see what everyone's talking about. And I was like, oh my days, I am in another world. This game is amazing. And I played it for about 6 hours, jumping around. It's probably a long time. Wow. I was a sweaty mess. I played it so long. I had that typical VR headset thing. My eyes were like, oh. And my wife had taken so many videos of me like dancing around, which just, you don't see like a 40-year-old man jumping around in his room. Don't know what the neighbours were thinking. But that game is next level. If you want to do something that's like fit, you know, for me, once things are lighter and better, I can see that really taking off. Just needs more songs. I think that's the thing with the content. It's got some licensed songs in there, but they're not that great. I think their own songs are pretty good. If you like, you know, dubstep style music, it's a good game for that. I think another underrated experience on VR is No Man's Sky.
Good shout, actually. Yeah, good shout.
Yeah, when it added the VR support, I got it on PlayStation, and I was looking around the world and I'm thinking, what will this look like on my PC?
Right.
So I got it on PC as well. And I was sat in my chair, and I'm in the ship, and I'm landing on a planet, and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, I don't want to get out of my ship.
Yeah.
I'm just quite happy just in here fiddling with all of the controls.
Yeah. Just cruise around.
Yeah, and it's such a sorry. It's such a, you know, an escape. If I, after a hard day's work, if I want to do something and go somewhere, I put on the headset and I'm in No Man's Sky, and I have escaped. Excuse me, what's that? I need to clear a cough.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so the VR is just, for me, it's my end of the day escape. If there's a title that comes along, which I think, I've got to try this. And for me, VR is an experience, and it's not something that you can just get by watching a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to try it. So, if you're on the fence with VR, go to like a Curry's or somewhere like that, or, if you can, and put on the headset and, test it out. Or when we're allowed to like hang with friends again, or go to events, test it out there. I guarantee the experience will blow you away.
Yeah.
The novelty doesn't get old, and I find if I leave it time between games, I'm more likely to complete the game if I've left it a few months, because the experience is still, wow, I forgot how awesome this was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. Go on.
I remember when PSVR was first getting shown off at EGX a couple of years back. It was the first time that anybody got hands on with it, and I got to play. Again, it was a weird sign up process. You had to fill out your email address and submit like book an appointment ahead of time. So I managed to get hands on with the Guerrilla Games title. Was it Rigs? It's like the mechanized sport thing. And ironically, I thought I was going to get really motion sick with that one, but I didn't at all. I had no motion sickness whatsoever. It was actually the Drive Club VR I got really motion sickness with, which is weird because you're sitting in a car. But the mechanized sports game Rigs, I thought was just phenomenal, because you're aiming. It's almost like the movie Blue Thunder, where your helmet is your tracking and aiming. So whenever you're looking at an opponent, that's where your crosshair is going rather than just the view. And it was so fun, and it was so fast, and it blew me away as to what VR could give a different experience for, because it was just essentially an arena combat shooter in this big like stomping robot, but it was just so kind of different and fresh, and yeah, I really was quite impressed with it, like super impressed.
I think for those type of games, you have to forget that you're sat in your living room or wherever, you have to believe you are that mechanized thing for it to work. And I think once you're over that,
Yeah.
you can quite easily get over the motion sickness if you were to experience it.
Yeah.
It's only when you start thinking about it that the motion sickness sometimes kind of like comes into play, because you're essentially tricking your brain. And it's only when your brain like realizes what's happening is that you can feel a little bit sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some titles where, you know, climbing a wall, and it does feel like you're climbing a wall, but if you look down and you're like, what? And then you let go and then you fall,
Yes,
and it's like
vertigo.
you fall in your chair and it's like, oh my God, like I'm gonna need to take the headset off for.
Yeah,
And people,
disorienting, because your brain has made the connection of the virtual world, but you're still
yeah,
in the real world. It's a bit weird. Yeah.
yeah, you can always close your eyes, is what I said to people. You always close your eyes, tap me on the shoulder, and I'll take you out the experience, and then you won't feel like, funny.
Yeah, cool. So, buddy, we're running long on the episode.
Oh no!
But I want to talk about your Sherimedia, which is your own agency venture. If we can talk about that for a few minutes as well, because I really want to delve into your solo venture, your own company now. So you broke out on your own. You're striking. You're punching off on your own. So tell us all about Sherimedia.
Yeah. So Sherimedia was something that I decided to set up whilst I was, I left nDreams, and I wanted to go solo. And I think I was having a midlife crisis and thinking, I could put everything that I've learned over the past, 18 years or so, package it up into a service offering, and then just, go for it. Because if I don't, I'll never know.
Yeah.
And, I was very set in my ways. I loved VR, but I was just thinking, I need a challenge. I need to do something different, something for me. So I set up the company. I had a business plan. I had a list of people that I was going to reach out to. And when I launched the company, I announced it on LinkedIn. I had an article, I think it was on PC Games Insider, and my inbox just started filling up. People were referring me left, right, and centre.
Nice.
Which was really, really good. But one thing I hadn't, figured out is like, how do I get this business? Like, it's not just someone will just give you a job. You've got to present to them. You've got to show them that I didn't have any experience to draw from. And one thing I see with other companies out there, startups, is they're like, oh, I'm this person, and I work for Xbox, and I work for EA, and I did this, and I worked on these games. Like, I didn't want to. I had a thing on there with, if you wanted to see who I am and what I've worked on, here's my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to put another company's logos on my website, because as Sherimedia, I've not worked for those companies.
Yeah.
And I wanted to avoid that. So yeah, I had to come up with a process of finding clients, onboarding clients. Business is hard. I got some referrals, but I still had to, do the due diligence. I still had to, show them that I know what I'm talking about. And, it's a great feeling coming away from a company with, a 3-month, 6 months, 12-month contract.
Yeah.
It's, it's a poor feeling not getting something.
Yeah. But
then, you have to bounce back quickly, and you have to use that as motivation to find other work. So the agency is set up, so I offer 3 core services. So community management, everything under the sun that goes along with that role, social media marketing, and influencer. I like to call it outreach.
Okay.
So I will, work with developers and find the right type of people to play the game, but it's on a relationship basis. And the idea is to build value for the games and for the content creators, and create a long-lasting relationship there, and put, develop programs for people and for games, rather than here's some cash, play my game and never play it ever again. Like, I want to try and avoid that type of approach.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people out there that do that. It's not I'm about. Community management, you know, I will represent that game, that company. I will be, you know, the action man of their company. And social media marketing for me, it's about, you know, creating content calendars, working on strategy, you know, what channels are they working on, what's the best for them, should they be everywhere, probably not, you know, is Discord a good choice for them, should they do more live streaming, can I help them? Sometimes it could be, you know, consultancy, it could be a couple of days, just figuring out a strategy for someone. It could
that's really interesting, because you can imagine that most companies, or nearly every company, is thinking, oh Christ, we need to be on everything. If there's a platform out there that is emerging, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Discord, we need to be on absolutely every single channel, rather than focusing on what is the right channel and directing the audience there. It's that kind of shotgun approach where, okay, if the audience is everywhere, then we need to be everywhere, rather than a curated channel which is like really focused and like executed to the best it can be. That's really fascinating.
I mean, one of the tips that I normally give to, you know, developers is look at the channels and look at, you know, your best performing content and do more of that. And that's, you know, it's really simple, and a lot of people, you know, overlook it, but, you know, that's all you need to do. And, you know, with curation as well, it's, you know, look at your best performing content and take that and repurpose it for the other channels. Don't just like take it and slap it on another channel and you know, think that's going to work. It won't. You need to like repurpose it and make it work. But I guarantee if you take that really good content and apply it to another channel and repurpose it, it will do well there as well. It's, you know, there's no rocket science here. It's, you know, as long as you can prove it out that it works, it will work here. But you know, all the social networks are a little bit different. They all have nuances. Again, things like, you know, live content. You know, Facebook loves live content, so do more of that. You know, they put the Mixer thing onto their Facebook gaming platform. They're pushing live streaming hard, so do that. You know, don't overlook these channels. TikTok as well. A lot of people are like, how do I make my game for TikTok? You know, just put content there. Just try it, experiment it, talk to the camera about your game. There's an indie game that's doing amazing. I can't remember what it is. It's doing amazing, and it's just a guy. He talks to the camera about his new features that are coming out every single day. And he's got millions of followers, and all of his other social channels are like, you know, 100 or so. He's got no interaction, no engagement on them, because he's putting everything into TikTok, and rightly so. It's doing great things for promotion of his game that I can't remember about.
Is it like Among Us or something like that? Because that's doing the round, or is it something different? It could be something different. I'm just throwing that out there because that's popular at the moment.
No, it's something else.
Okay. Cool.
And it'll come back
to you when you're not realizing. And also a big congratulations to you, because you had an Astro headphones deal or announcement earlier this week as well, didn't you?
So a bit of a, you know, it's a bit really cool opportunity, and, you know, opportunities come along at various points in business. You know, conversations will start. This conversation started when I first started my business, and then I had conversations with these guys like on and off, and then they had some, you know, restructuring, and there was a Logitech thing happened. So, you know, this has very much been a, you know, an ongoing conversation, and they had a position coming up within their team as a contractor. And, you know, in business, you know, sometimes you work on projects and sometimes you work on contracts. And, you know, you've got to be flexible, and particularly in, you know, the days that we're in at the minute, you know, nothing is guaranteed. You know, I've had so many people go under whilst I've been working with them, which hasn't been a pleasant experience. So I don't close the book on anything anyway. And this opportunity came along. I had to again, you've got to present yourself, got to present your experience, got to show people, what you do. So very much a process, interviews with people, talking to, other people within their team. They had, other people that they were talking to as well. And they're trying to build out a European team. And yeah, so the role is like me looking after their social and community channels for the UK, also influencer partnerships as well. And it's a brand that I love.
Yeah.
It's a brand that I've used, throughout my career and even, before. And I know the guys really, really well. And I've even, when I was at EA, I reached out to them and said, I want to work with you. How can I work with you? Like actually as a job. So for me, it's been something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. And it's just, it's come together now, which is super exciting. And I'm still like pinching myself at this. This is the thing, and I'm gonna have to do this amazing work. But yeah, it's really exciting.
Well, we spoke briefly before the show about Astro headphones. As you see, I'm wearing a set of A40s. I absolutely love the mix amp. It's funny. Headphones are such a personal thing as well. That like different head sizes and shapes work for different headphones. But because I wear glasses, I find that the Astro A40s are by far the most comfortable for long sessions. It's weird. Whereas other headphones are fine for other people. But wearing glasses whilst wearing headphones seems to be my kind of main priority. Like, how comfortable are they? And obviously the sound quality is kind of goes without saying. It's fantastic. The voice chat is fantastic. But Astro are one of those premium brands which just seem to deliver like really good, like high-end performing headphones. And I can't recommend them enough. They're just super comfortable. The quality is amazing, and man, that is a huge boon for Sherimedia. So congratulations on being able to work with Astro. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I started this week, and I'm just getting to grips with the brand and what their plans are and what they're doing, and it's really, really exciting. It's going to keep me busy certainly for the next few months coming up.
Good stuff.
And then just quickly before we wrap up, I'm still working with indies and other people, and the other game that's or project that's working alongside is called Roboquest, and it's a FPS roguelite.
Okay.
It's an early access. So if you're into that, definitely check it out. It's probably one of the most polished titles I've ever worked on.
Wow. And that's called Roboquest.
Roboquest, yeah. Okay. It's only on Steam for the moment. But yeah, the dream is for the studio to take it to console once it's out of early access. But yeah, it's really cool.
That's fascinating, buddy. Well, thank you, a massive thank you for joining me today. It's been an excellent show for episode, I think, 14 or 15 of the Weekend Catch-Up Club. I can't believe it's been 14 weeks of doing this. It's mental. But you're such a great chap, and such a wealth of knowledge and experience within the industry. And of course, Sherimedia is going from strength to strength, which I can't wait to see more of and see what other great things that you do in the future. And of course, during lockdown as well, and COVID, and during this kind of crazy 2020, seeing how everything evolves and expands and keeps going from strength to strength. So what is all of the channels that everybody can get in contact with you?
Yeah, sure. So Twitter, this is Action Man on Twitter or Sherimedia, and Facebook, I've got Sherimedia. LinkedIn, just search for. I think you can search for Video Monkeys. It's still set up as my old business on there, so you can find me, or Dan Sheridan, you'll find me. And then if you want to add me on any gaming platform, you want to play some games, I'm always there. It's Sheridan, which is SIRIDEAIN. It's a Gaelic way of saying my last name, Sheridan, because my heritage is Irish, and that's that. So yeah, that's me on every platform.
Awesome. Well, to our viewers, a massive thank you for tuning in for this hour and almost 40 minutes of a great chat. We could have kept on going. I feel we could have
Well,
just kept on going.
I'm sorry. It's 20. How do you fit 20 years into an hour?
Exactly, I know. I totally get it. But please, if you
Sorry.
have enjoyed the show, do give us a like, give us a follow. If you're watching later on Catch Up, hit that subscribe button, share, tweet, do all the social things. But until next time, everybody, take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. And until next weekend on the next show, happy gaming. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers.